What's up, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers? Welcome to the video feed for episode 97 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. We've got a lot to get into tonight. That's right, tonight. We are starting a little bit later than usual. That's really just all on me. I'll admit, I was spending some time watching some of the football today to see who was going to go to the Super Bowl. And sure enough, I knew it was going to happen because we had an early game that ended up not being exciting, and then the late game ended up being exciting, and I had to sit there and watch the end of it. So all that being said, let's get right into the meat of episode 97.
Who 1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 97 on this fine final Sunday in January. We're getting a later start. For those of you, especially for our UK fans, it doesn't even make a difference time-wise. We're starting pretty late. I don't usually like to be recording this late for Common Sense Sundays. It's kind of the same timing as when we used to do the traditional Go Tell It to the Wall episodes on Thursdays. We got a lot to get into. Not a lot of time. Might be a little shorter this week. We'll see how that goes. But of course, before we get into everything else, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us before episodes, after episodes, during episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall, our official Facebook page. And of course, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Make sure you subscribe to our channel over there. And if you're an Instagram user, make sure you follow my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. And, of course, more important than all those things, mainly because you have links to those platforms I just mentioned, would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That is your one-stop shop for anything and everything that is Common Sense Sundays, Go Tell It to the Wall, Go Tell It to the Brewery, parenting, mental health Mondays, all that good stuff right there. On SeanO'RourkeLive.com. You're also going to find a link to our Patreon campaign. If you want to help us out financially, please do so through the Patreon campaign. If you don't want to end up being a patron, just not into using Patreon, you can also help us out financially by picking up some official Go Tell It to the Wall merch. The merch website links directly from our website, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. All right. Yes, last week we did not have an episode. We missed an episode. And I'll be honest, some people in my home were in what sports fans and sports people affectionately call the health and safety protocols. Yeah, that's right. Almost 3 fucking years. And unfortunately, my wife came up positive about a week ago. Before that, I believe my father-in-law was actually positive and then somehow passed it to my wife. Fortunately for myself, I didn't end up being positive. Maybe I was, and it just wasn't, picking up enough on it. I did catch a little bit of a cold, but didn't feel nearly as bad as my wife and some other people I've known that have dealt with COVID. So for that reason, we did not have an episode last weekend. I was more concerned with keeping my wife quarantined, as well as my father-in-law. My father-in-law luckily has his own little apartment, so it was easy to keep him quarantined. But I spent some days sleeping on the couch because I could not be in the same room as my wife. So that was a lot of fun. And of course, all that being said, we got rid of the COVID segment during Common Sense Sundays. Obviously, it's still fucking here. Wear your mask. Be smart. Don't be stupid. My family is extremely smart. Still, somehow, it was able to make its way, at least partially, through my household. And that's why we missed an episode last week. I'm still in recovery because I caught a little bit of a cold, although it was funny because, and we'll get into the recap of that, but I couldn't tell if I had a cold or if my voice was just gone from 2 unwritten law shows over the course of 3 days. And if you know me, you know that I'm going to lose my voice at an unwritten law show. It's just It's just a given. I've been listening to them way too long. Really longer than many other bands out there that I listen to now. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some digital trends. That's right. This is the stuff trending around the social platforms, the digital platforms, all that good stuff. This one is actually it was trending like a little over a week ago, but I had to talk about this one because I think it caused some confusion within the Twitter ranks. Like a week and a half ago, there was a phrase trending, and it was simply giant bomb. Yes, giant bomb. So imagine you're someone like me who really just goes onto Twitter to get news and kind of updates and sports stuff and whatever it might be, and you see giant bomb trending. What reaction is that going to elicit out of you or out of me? Just a wild guess. Yeah, not good things. And to be fair, it wasn't good things, but luckily I clicked on it and said, and other people were pointing this out as well. There's apparently a video game company called Giant Bomb. We can discuss whether that's a good name for any kind of company, but nonetheless, there was a video game company called Giant Bomb who had to lay off a bunch of employees, and so that's why it was trending. But let's be smarter with these things. Maybe Giant Bomb video game company? I don't know. But you don't want to open any kind of platform of any kind and see that a phrase Giant Bomb is trending. Just like, wait, really? I'm of a certain age where I remember giant bombs from the 90s. It wasn't something to joke about. I laugh because I genuinely had one of those like, whoa, all right, where's there a giant bomb? Nope, it's just a video game company. Context is key. All right, moving along here. Hashtag unbearable in 5 words or less. 5 words is a lot. I had quite a bit of stuff that I could think of as unbearable in 5 words or less. First one that came to mind was TikTok stars. I still don't understand TikTok stars. It's fine if you're one of these TikTok users, but a bunch of people dancing around to songs they didn't write. I mean, I guess that's a thing we do. Yeah. For example, the whole Wednesday dance, I guess, thing now is a TikTok trend. And what's her name? Of course, I'm blanking on her name right now. Jenna Ortega. She has come out and been like, stop with the TikTok dancing Wednesday dance. And I'm sure they're not using the right music either, because I can't appreciate a certain type of music being used and people finding that music. Probably not happening. And, of course, I don't use TikTok, so I cannot verify the correctness of that statement. And, of course, prank influencers. You can tell the direction I went with this. I can't stand this prank influencer stuff. I'm seeing, and I don't even follow any of it. For the love of God, stop with the pranks. You know, we've talked about this in the past. We have parents pranking their children and probably scarring them for life. Stop with the prank stuff. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt, and someone gets hurt like 90% of the time in these stupid prank videos. So knock it off. Again, hashtag unbearable in 5 words or less. I got lots of other things. 1 word, Trump. 3 letters, GOP. All unbearable as far as I'm concerned. All right, hashtag you know you are old when. Hashtag you know you are old when. And I saw this specific one being posted, and I see it all the time. And it's you turn down the music to see better. This one always gets me because it's like, hang on, I'm trying to find it, and they turn down the music in the car, and it's like, that's such an old person thing. And I got to be honest, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the podcast before. 16-year-old Sean was turning down the volume to find an address while driving around. Now, keep in mind, 16-year-old Sean didn't have navigation and things like this, didn't even have a cell phone. So you're you're literally reading that. Nothing's telling you exactly where to stop. You're reading addresses as you go going along there. And this one got me too. And this was of my own thought process. Hashtag you know you're old when you remember a normal looking Madonna. This has come up recently. I was talking to a group of people at a show a couple weeks ago. And I was like, oh yeah, Madonna. Have you seen Madonna lately? Because good Lord. And you know me. If you've listened to this podcast, this has nothing to do with aging. But let's age gracefully. Don't turn yourself into a completely different looking person through plastic surgery. And I got to be honest, Madonna is quite terrifying these days. So hashtag you know you're old when. I also am constantly reaching for my glasses. I've worn glasses since my late teens, and I've needed them off and on, but I have found now at the ripe age of 40, and I was always able to read things for the most part. I could kind of squint through it. I should have been wearing my glasses, but now people will hand me something to read, and my father comes out. I'm like, hang on, let me get my glasses here. I'm still squinting at the damn thing. So lots of things that you know you're old when. Hashtag you know you're old when. All right, another good one. Hashtag terrible housekeeping tips. I laugh at this one. I am the main one in my house in charge of keeping things neat and orderly. It's not that my family is slobs or anything. Well, I have a 6-year-old. I think all 6-year-olds are slobs to an extent. My wife is not. However, I'm extremely neat. So I vacuum like every other. There's lots of things going on in my house. I'm constantly reorganizing. Just did a bunch of reorganizing this week while my wife was unable to do much other than lay down and rest. But hashtag terrible housekeeping tips. It's just going to get dirty again. This is true, but you still want it clean in the interim. So that should not be a good excuse for you. And then get a dog instead of a vacuum. This does work to an extent. However, dogs don't eat dirt and dust. They're just going to eat the crumbs. So keep that in mind. I have to be careful with my dog. My dog's got EPI. He can't eat anything off the ground. That's my favorite. My daughter will have friends over, and they're like, can we have some of this chocolate? And it's like, yes, eat it at the table. I don't want, and no dog should have chocolate, but my dog's especially susceptible because he's got digestive issues. So you got to be extra careful with that. And let me give you a good housekeeping tip. This is something I just told my daughter the other day because she'll take half an hour and suddenly her room, it looks like a hurricane hit. I like to call her terremoto, which is Spanish for earthquake, because she gets home from school and it's just like, whew, like a tornado hit or an earthquake hit. But my mother taught me at a young age, if you take like 5-10 minutes before you go to bed at night, do a little straightening up. You're not spending 3 hours straightening up your room like once every 2 weeks or so. Do a little straightening in the interim. This always comes up because people will be over and I'll be cleaning up toys, family or whatever, and they're like, you're just going to have to clean that up again later. And it's like, yes, I do. But I want it clean now. So get some good housekeeping tips, not the terrible housekeeping tips like it's just going to get dirty again. All right, one more, and then we're going to move along to mental health. Magneto is trending on Twitter. I am not, as you know, I'm not much of a comic book person. I've said before, I can't keep up with this Marvel stuff. There's just too much. I don't even understand with multiverses and all this other stuff. When I was a kid, and still to an extent, was an X-Men fan. X-Men became extremely popular again in the early 90s with the animated series, and sports card stores also started including comic books and comic cards. In fact, as I was cleaning out this studio closet the other day, I found a box of X-Men cards and Marvel cards and stuff. So I am familiar with the X-Men for the most part, and of course Deadpool. We got Deadpool sitting right here. There's another one up there. There's a bunch of those around. So Magneto's trending. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Is there a Magneto? No, there is currently a debate going on the social platforms as to whether Magneto is a gay icon. And people are saying, well, no, he cannot be a gay icon in whatever comic book, blah, blah, blah. He bedded a bunch of women, blah, 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 and had a child, blah, blah. And other people are like, no, he was also attracted to this male character and blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. It is a raging debate on Twitter and other social platforms right now. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with fictional characters and their sexual appeal, their sexual orientation, whatever it might be. To the point that I'm reminded of my favorite director of all time, Kevin Smith, and his movie from 1995, 6, not 97. I don't know. It's Mallrats. It's his follow-up to Clerks. There's a scene with Stan Lee where the Jason Lee character is asking constant questions about the sexual, blanking on a word here. Someone's going to give it to me later. It'll hit me mid. Sexual parts of certain Marvel comic superheroes. And it was presented this way as weird, as strange, as something you shouldn't be that obsessed with. Fast forward 20 years, and we are having wild debates about it on social platforms. Here's the thing. Is Magneto a gay icon? You want him to be a gay icon? Magneto's a fucking gay icon. You don't want him to be a gay icon? He doesn't have to be a gay icon to you. If you're someone that's so offended by Magneto being a gay icon, don't worry about it. Just who cares? Fictional character. But that's the world we live in. On that note, we're going to move on to some mental health topics here. All right, I want to talk about, I don't have a ton this week, but I want to talk about a couple things. The guitarist for Fall Out Boy, Joe Truman, apologies, Joe, for butchering your last name, I'm sure. We got news recently, so Fall Out Boy, they actually announced a new album coming out, and I guess it's been a while since Fall Out Boy had an album. I enjoy their music to an extent. I've seen them live, but I'm not a huge fan where I follow, oh my god, new Fall Out Boy music. Shortly after that, the guitarist for Fall Out Boy came out and said he is stepping away from the band. He wants to take a hiatus, and the reason I bring it up, and the reason he is doing so, is to tend to his mental health. And this is something I often talk about. Famous people, athletes, people who influence, with people of influence. I don't want to say influencers. People of influence who start to be open about their mental health struggles and how that is helpful to other people, whether it's in that scene, whether it's just in pop culture, whether it's in general, and that they see that they're maybe not alone, and that even somebody who makes a lot of money and plays in a very popular band and has new music coming out and everything else still can have mental health struggles. The cool thing is, not only, the coolest thing is the support that he's had from the public. Nobody's coming out and saying, oh my gosh, suck it up. 20 years ago, the crowd would have been like, yo, Joe, suck it up. You play guitar. No, we have come that far since then, which is a great thing. And it takes a lot to be honest with the public in this situation. So I really applaud him prioritizing mental health. And I think the cool thing here, and the good thing is because a lot of times when people are struggling with their mental health, they tend to say they're going to completely abandon something. And the important difference here is the guitarist has said, no, he would like to come back. He is leaving the door wide open. He does not want to leave permanently. He just needs to take care of some things before he's able to play again with Fall Out Boy, which I commend even more than that, because it's easy to just walk away. It's a little more difficult to say, let me work on this and let me come back to this. This is something that's happened with the podcast. We have taken mental health breaks from the podcast a couple of times. We did it when COVID hit. There was no podcast for months when COVID hit. Well, a couple months. And then we shifted to Common Sense Sundays. A lot of that had to do with my own mental state. I didn't know how to navigate COVID. I didn't know what to do. I didn't leave my property for months. So I commend him. I commend Fall Out Boy fans. I commend fans of the scene. And I commend people that are just hearing about this that aren't even fans of the scene or Fall Out Boy, who are giving him respect and applauding his decision instead of putting him down. I also want to talk about yet another mass shooting. This happened last weekend. We probably would have talked about it. It would have been real fresh because it happened this last Saturday night, just over a week ago. But because we didn't record, didn't have a chance to talk about it. I'm really tired of talking about these mass shootings. I just am. And I know everyone else out there is. I'd have to go back and count how many times we've talked about it over the course of Go Tell It to the Wall since we started doing this in 2016, almost 7 years ago. It just happens too much. But this one was real close to home. For those of you that heard about it last weekend on the news, Monterey Park, not far from where I live. I frequent there. I wouldn't say I'm not there like weekly, but I am there quite often for different things. There's events that happen around there. There's also very, very good Chinese food around there, which I go there, find some dims. There's great dim sum places around there, I'll tell you. So it's very, very close to home for me. It can almost throw a rock at Monterey Park. And it's easy to shut down. I'm so tired of talking about these things, and it's easy to shut down, and sometimes you do need to shut down. Maybe you need to sit in a dark corner and contemplate what's going on in the world, but these are things that have just become so regular. And yes, we can say the speed of information and all this other stuff, and no. We're multiple mass shootings already in 2023 in this country. A bunch of them. I don't have the exact number in front of me. It's still January. It's not even February yet. And we're the only country that this happens. Especially when it's almost every day. That toll can be unimaginable. So the reason I bring this up in mental health is you have to find that balance of being informed, being educated, but not at your own mental health expense. We all need to speak about these things. We need to speak about our feelings. We need to talk about why this continues to happen, although in this country we talk about why it happens for about 2 weeks and then nothing for a week and then another one happens. Well, here in California, we had one in Southern California and like 2 days later one in Northern California. It's just unending. And it can take its toll. But I think the other thing to remember is that you can step away from the news. So while there is importance in being educated, you can take a break from it. But also control what you can control. You can't control the world. My wife often says this to me, is you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. Because something like this will happen. And I wouldn't say I turn into a different person, but it gets me down. But at the same time, there's really nothing I can do outside of speaking out about it. Well, I'm talking to a wall here on Common Sense Sundays or on Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. So control what you can. Talk about it, be open. Don't let it take its toll on you. But know that there's only so much you can control. We unfortunately live in a world where you have to worry about your family, but certain things are just out of your control. Unless you're going to lock everyone in a house and, bulletproof windows and everything, it's just, there's only so much you can do. So find that balance. Be educated, watch the news. Maybe turn off the news once in a while and watch a silly cartoon. Whatever it might be. Watch some crappy television. Zone out on some video game. Maybe not one of those like shooting video games, but zone out on some video game. Whatever it might be. Control what you can. Because that's going to be the best thing for your mental health when it comes to these kinds of situations. And speaking of something out of tragedy, that's what we're going to talk about in our positive news this particular episode. So the guy that shot up a dance hall in Monterey Park, and many of you have probably heard about this, but this is something that does need to be commended. Then moved from Monterey Park to Alhambra, which is even closer to my neighborhood. I'm constantly in Alhambra. There's a lot of good stuff there. Oh my gosh, let me look at I'm blanking on the burger place, but I've got a dang sticker on the wall. Grill 'em all. There it is. See, Grill 'em all right there on the wall. Yep. Grill 'em all is in Alhambra, so I'm over there for that. They also have a fantastic freestanding van store. Those of you that know me or have listened to me at all know that I frequent a van store quite a bit, and I really like that one. It's a freestanding one there. You don't have to go into a mall. So anyway, Alhambra. The guy that shot up the dance hall in Monterey Park then tried to make his way to a dance hall in Alhambra. And there's actually video of this that you can see. There's a gentleman, his name is Brandon Say, who was in the lobby of the dance hall, saw him come in with a gun, wrestled the gun away from him, and the gunman then had to leave because he got caught. I don't want to get into the rest of the story and how that ended and everything else, but I do want to commend Brandon Say and bring this up in positive news because we have positivity out of tragedy. This could have been much bigger. We could have lost more people. But luckily, somebody else put their life on the line and was able to successfully unarm this gunman who was clearly looking to hurt and kill more people. The amazing thing, he didn't have a gun. Even more amazing thing is you think about the juxtaposition of a gentleman, a good guy who didn't have a gun, So we don't say good guy with a gun. That's good guy with a gun. Blah blah blah. Good guy with a gun. Well, let's think about the juxtaposition of Uvalde, Texas. Lots of good guys with guns standing outside of a school doing nothing, and here we have somebody who went into fight or flight mode, fought, and saved lives of people that were within that dance hall. So good on you, Brandon Say. We need more people like you in the world. Hopefully, we need more people like him, but hopefully we can hit a point where we don't need more people like him, because maybe people can stop shooting the shit out of each other and killing each other and, unnecessary violence, especially in this country. All right, parenting. I do have a beer in the studio because I came in so late, but it's not even a special one. It's just a little Voodoo Ranger IPA, one of my favorites. I really enjoy the New Belgium brews. It's one of my preferred. You can get some nice mix packs. They've got some good hazies and some good imperials, and the Voodoo Ranger is just like a good go-to IPA. I always enjoy that one. All right, let's talk about some parenting. So, as you can guess, I had to keep my kid out of school. Now, she wasn't testing positive right away, but then she got a little cold, and it's like, well, just in case she tests positive, we're going to keep her home. Keeping a 6-year-old entertained and inside, not very easy. I don't know how people in the Midwest and the East Coast do it when it's just crazy snow. We had one day this week where I think she watched 3 movies. I was like, just watch movies. And then my wife is down for the count, and I'm trying to do some work and everything else. Another movie? Sure, another movie. Let's watch another damn movie. Just that extra screen time. And then on top of that, keeping everyone separated. So I had to say to my daughter, she's like, well, can I go give mommy a hug? Like, no. No, I'm sorry, you can't right now. Well, we don't eat in the bedrooms. Why is mommy eating in the bedroom? Because she has to be quarantined in the bedroom. 6-year-olds don't quite understand this. Now, I say don't quite. They do to an extent. I mean, mine knows what COVID is. She's literally not gone to school without dealing with COVID. I mean, not having it, but not having, her first year at school, we're at the height of it, she was getting tested weekly, and she's only in kindergarten now, and she's still wearing a mask, and we still have to be very cautious with everything happening at the school. So it was definitely an extra challenge this week. And then on top of that, I know many parents can relate to this. 6-year-olds, they like to get very energetic. Well, and I'm still, who knows if she actually had COVID. She didn't have a positive test, but she did get a stuffy nose. And so it's like, all right, I need you to feel better. And then she'll start to feel a little better, but then she starts running around the house like a maniac, and suddenly her nose is running like crazy. And it's like, okay, kid, I know you want to run around, but we got to try to rest. That's the only way to get better. The same thing with blowing nose. I know other parents can relate to this. It's like, do you need to blow your nose? No. Sniffling like crazy, and it's like, just blow your nose. You're going to get, COVID or not, you're going to get over your cold quicker if you're blowing a damn nose. Me, I'm quite the opposite. I'm like, I got a little runny nose here. 5 tissues later, like, still maybe a little, just keep blowing that thing. That's just how I am. So that was part of my challenge over the past week or so. Fortunately, everyone's feeling better now. I'm not sure if my wife is testing negative just yet, but everybody's in a much better place health-wise right now, thankfully. All right, basketball skills. So my kid missed basketball practice this week. Didn't want to risk it. Especially with basketball, it's one thing to, certain activities where you're separated and you're outside. You're inside for basketball. Granted, it's a gym. There's a lot of airspace. Still was like, no, just in case she is positive or, her immunity's down. No, let's not risk it. But and I know I've talked about this, watching 6-year-olds play basketball. It's really funny. But this is a challenge that I have found myself in lately with her starting to play basketball. And my wife says it to my daughter because I played high school basketball, and I coached kids. I coached like 4th and 5th graders, so younger kids, but not 6. They had some skills. I am trying to find a balance of teaching my daughter, like let's say dribbling skills. And for example, if you go watch 6-year-olds play basketball, there is no such thing as traveling. They're kind of dribbling the basketball. My kid is decent at dribbling the basketball, but no, they're just running with a ball. It's like football players out there just holding the ball, So my challenge is how much do I teach a 6-year-old? Do I grill her on dribbling a basketball? Do we work through shooting a basketball more? And it's that balance of not wanting them to get frustrated, but also wanting them to learn. Because I'll tell you, sports burnout is a real thing. You hear stories of kids who've been doing gymnastics or playing soccer or basketball, whatever it was, since they were so little, and then they burn out on it by the time they're a teenager. So there is that balance. And for me, it's tough because I started playing sports very late. Outside of inline skating, skateboarding, and some roller hockey, which was just around the neighborhood. My mother was terrified to let me play hockey till I was in high school. Outside of that, I was late to the playing sports game. Started playing flag football in like 6th grade. Didn't play basketball till 8th grade, and didn't run any kind of organized track until high school. So for me, it's an odd challenge, and I don't know what that balance is, but I am currently navigating it. And I would encourage any parents out there with burgeoning young athletes to find that balance and make sure they're not burning out and they are still having fun while increasing their ability and learning a skill, as they grow older and as they get better in the sport. I don't know what that answer is. At this point, a 6-year-old, I just want to let her run. We'll work on a little bit of dribbling and shooting, and outside of that, it's like, just let them have fun at that point. But when do you start? You got to nurture that ability. All right. I started late today. I mentioned at the top of the video feed. Excuse me. Because I was watching the football games. It's Championship Sunday. For those of you that don't watch the NFL. Basically 2 games today. The winner of each game. Now we know who's playing in the Super Bowl. We got Kansas City is going to play Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. My house will be going crazy because my father-in-law is from Philly, so he'll be cheering loudly for Philadelphia. And I believe this is something I've mentioned before, but I want to bring it up again because my daughter enjoys watching sports to an extent. She really likes basketball. She likes hockey. She enjoys watching football. If me and my father-in-law are watching, she'll sit and watch, and she was watching some today. Like, okay, come watch this. But the commercials. For the love of God, the commercials. There needs to be a petition, something, so that we're not putting in ridiculously scary commercials during commercial breaks of professional sports. On network television. We're not even talking cable. We're talking network television. Specifically, Cocaine Bear. We had ads for Cocaine Bear during a football game that started at noon. Now, this is noon Pacific time. It was 3 p.m. on the East Coast. Started at noon Pacific time. And we're getting commercials for Cocaine Bear. And on top of that M. Night Shyamalan and a Stephen King movie that's coming out. So I can't even get up during a commercial break and grab something to drink. I got to be keen on it and then turn off the TV so that my kid's not seeing extremely scary commercials. And then I got to turn it back on. Can we stop this? During sports? We don't need an ad for Cocaine Bear during a nationally televised sporting event. That's just common sense. Find another time to put it on. And honestly, something like Cocaine Bear doesn't need advertising in that time slot. Anybody who's interested in Cocaine Bear saw the trailer on like Twitter or one of those stupid things, and they already know about it. But no. We got to put it in the middle of a sporting event that should be family friendly. And then I got to explain to my daughter what a Cocaine Bear is. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. But can you imagine that conversation? I feel for parents out there. Hey, Daddy, what's that? What's wrong with that bear? Oh, let me tell you a story about an airplane that dropped a bunch of stuff in the middle of a forest there, kiddo. Give me a break. I'm tired of changing the channel, turning it off, covering eyes. It's enough. Family-friendly sporting event. Knock it off. Which is also hilarious because, we worry about certain other things. And I know there's beer advertisements during televised stuff. We hit a point where you had to stop doing cigarette advertisements, at live games and stuff, and certain beer advertisements at live games. But sure, no, we can talk about cocaine and a bear. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Oh, Girl Scout cookies piling up. You can't see it on the video feed, but behind me, Oh, there's already boxes of Girl Scout cookies. The studio is just going to gradually become so full of Girl Scout cookies, I'll have to build a little shed for myself to record out of. I don't know how. And my kid doesn't. It's not a ton. I know people that like have already sold hundreds of boxes, and they've just got hundreds of boxes at their house. It's like, what do you do with all these damn things? You can't put them outside. It's food. Somebody's going to eat it. And then depending on who's in your family, maybe you got to hide them. Not in my house. I'm like, keep them in there. I don't need all this extra sugar, but you never know. Piling up right now. It's just the beginning. More and more going to be coming. That being said, if you're looking for Girl Scout cookies, hit me up on the Facebook there, and I will send you the link, and you can support my kid and buy some boxes of Girl Scout cookies. All right, one more thing in parenting here I want to talk about. Found myself in Hollywood yesterday. I know. Not a fan of going to Hollywood. I avoid it like the plague. However, this one's well worth it. We went to see Bluey on stage at Dolby Theater. Talk about juxtaposition. For those of you that aren't familiar with Dolby Theater, that's where they film the Oscars. So here I am sitting in a theater where they film the Oscars, and I'm watching a stage production of Bluey, which was, for lack of a better word, fantastic. If your kids are into Bluey and you have the opportunity to go see this stage production, go see it. The characters came out, and you would have thought it was like a Rolling Stones concert with a bunch of baby boomers fans in the crowd. No, it was all kids screaming their lungs out to all the Bluey characters coming out, and I found myself laughing. So highly, highly recommend checking that one out with the kids going nuts. I will say, in true merch fashion, because, my daughter's like, oh, can we get something to remember it by? And a lot of times I'm like, no, but I was like, no, it's Bluey. Even Daddy likes Bluey. $25 for a little plush, like 4-inch plush. I'm just going, all right, you pick one thing. One. Let's go. You want that? All right, let's go. Here, $25 later. Man, true merch fashion. All right, let's get into some common sense here. I think we are going to wrap it up a little early tonight. I'm just exhausted. I don't know why. Too much football watching? It's not a good excuse. Didn't even have shows this week, fortunately. Because I would have been skipping them just to be safe in case I did end up positive with COVID, since my wife was positive with COVID. But anyway, common sense. The chief of the Los Angeles Police Department, the LAPD, has actually made it against the rules, banned the thin blue line flag. So any officers working for the Los Angeles Police Department are no longer allowed to put the thin blue line flag on their uniform, on their jackets, on their cars, whatever it might be. He did cite that it has become a hateful symbol, which we can argue whether it is. I believe it is. But when you have groups like the Proud Boys utilizing it and other terrorist groups, it's become a symbol of hate. The backlash, many other cities. I saw tweets from the Fraternal Order of Police Officers or whatever the hell they're called. How can you succumb to all this pressure from the public and blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, man. Why are you so attached to a flag that has a thin blue line? Maybe wear the American flag? Well, I don't know. Just an idea, since, it's the United States of America. Maybe we wear that U.S. flag instead of the thin blue line flag. I don't get it. And there's all these ones now. I think there's like a yellow one for something, probably red for firefighters. I get it. Respect. I mean, not a lot of respect to the police right now after what's going on in Memphis, but respect to an extent. But why get so... The outcry from police officers, especially in other cities, was ridiculous compared to the non-outcry when police officers kill people. Priorities. What's more important? A stupid flag? Or the fact that you have police officers killing people on a daily basis in this country? I'm going to go with the latter on that, but apparently some of these police organizations don't agree with me. It's shocking, I know. It's a fucking flag. Why? Why are you so upset? Wear the American flag. Ban the Punisher logo while you're at it, too, because those idiots don't know what they're actually wearing. Speaking of the police in Memphis, I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but I do need to say my heart goes out to everyone in Memphis, the family of Tyree Nichols. We had a similar situation with the LAPD recently where they killed a young black man who was a teacher, a beloved teacher. And here we have Tyree Nichols, who was a skateboarder and photographer. And it hit a little extra close to home for me. Oh, Jesus Christ. You know, I'm white, so it's less likely for me. But what if I'm not saying that's what he was doing, was shooting photography, but I'm out shooting somewhere. Am I just police gonna say, oh, stop, and then beat the hell out? Who knows? So sick of hearing about this, and I don't even have the words for it anymore. But what I will say is you're either against police brutality or you're silent and you're for police brutality. If you're a police officer, you should be speaking out constantly on these things. If you have anything to do with any kind of police department, you should be speaking out on these things constantly and actively working to reform every single police department that has issues such as this. Like I said, we just had it happen in Los Angeles with the LAPD. You want to know how the Los Angeles sheriffs are? Yeah, just Google it. And gird your loins, because you're going to be reading stuff for a while and probably seeing some videos that you don't want to see, but you should. So my heart goes out to Tyree Nichols, that community, and his family. There's just no excuse for this. There never has been, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. All right, had some YouTube commenter recently. I ruffle feathers a lot. This is something I do, and most people send the hate mail through SeanO'RourkeLive.com. They don't like it public. But I had a recent YouTube commenter. I'm not going to name names or anything. They were quite offended because I pointed out that Kirk Cameron tends to be a hateful person when it comes to certain communities, namely the LGBTQ community. I was then told that just because I disagree with something Kirk Cameron says doesn't mean it is hateful. Now, a simple Google search will prove my point, but I had to then go on to prove my point and say, and point out that he has called people of the LGBT community unnatural. I was then met with a paragraph involving the word sinners and all this other stuff. Let me just point this out. You can't call yourself Christian and then marginalize entire groups of people. You can't say, well, I still love them even though they are sinners. No. It's not your right to judge. And in fact, if you followed the Bible the way you're supposed to, you would know that only God can judge people. We have talked about this phrase quite often. Don't look at the splinter in someone else's eye without looking at the plank in your own eye. So when you throw around terms like sinners, and they know they are sinners, and they are unnatural and everything else, that is in fact hateful. And there's no excuse for it. So please, anybody out there, continue with the comments. You're not going to change my mind, especially when you throw around things like, they are sinners. Like, what? Who are you to judge? Most likely these are also the same people who, I'm not saying this particular person, but there are plenty of people out there who are huge Trump supporters, and then they fall back on being able to hate the LGBTQ community because of the sanctity of marriage. Give me a fucking break. They're probably watching the Kardashians as well. It's not about the sanctity of marriage. It's about you not wanting equal rights for people in this country. Simple as that. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But let me get to, speaking of hypocrisy, March for Life. We had that recently. Here's the thing. You want to have a march for, whatever their whole thing. You can't call it a march for life. Because that's the thing, is it's a march for life. We are pro-life and blah, 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 blah. Unborn babies, blah, blah, blah. Unborn babies, blah, 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 blah. It's not a march for life. You're only worried about cells within a woman's body. You're not worried about the woman's life. So have your little marches and everything else. But don't be hypocritical with it. You want to have a march for life? Have a march for women's rights. Because, bottom line is, women's health rights are life rights. Simple as that. But no, we call it March for Life because we want to marginalize women and control their bodies. That's what this group wants to do. Anybody going and participating in that, that is what they are marching for. They are not marching for lives. They are marching to control women's bodies. March for life, my fucking ass. Knock it off. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. March to take away women's health rights. Because that's what it is. One more thing on the LGBTQ community. Sometimes I talk too fast and I stumble over my own words. Pope Francis came out recently in an interview. Don't get too excited. And I was like, wow, he finally did it. And some other LGBTQ organizations came out and commended him for saying this. Pope Francis came out and said that we shouldn't be excluding the LGBTQ community from church, and it shouldn't be a crime. He was also talking specifically about certain countries, predominantly Catholic countries, where it's literally illegal to be gay. Literally. You can be killed for being gay. Now, that's where it ends because he did still go on to say, what was that hot topic, that hot button word there? Sinner. So it still said they're sinners, but at least we have moved to a point where, it is a big step to have the leader of the Catholic Church coming out and saying that we need to treat the LGBT community with as much compassion as we do anyone else within our own communities. Let's just maybe get that next step and not call them sinful. Everyone has the right to live the way they do. And like I've always said, you have these people worship at the altar of the Orange Menace, who's been married, 62 times, cheated on his wives, all this other stuff. And I know many gay couples who have been happily married for a very long time have children, and they have much better family dynamics than many, many, many heterosexual couples that I've met over the years throughout my life. All right, a little more common sense here. We had a gun hoax. This was today or yesterday at Walmart. A Walmart in Pico Rivera here in Southern California had to be evacuated. I'm getting so sick of this stuff. It's like the false bomb threats at the schools, everything else. Somebody out there thinks it's funny. And I think what needs to happen is this needs to be traced back. And whoever was making that call, and I think it should be this way every time, needs to face the full consequences. They should get a bill for all of the police force that was sent there. They should be able to be sued by Walmart for the time that was lost in business for them. And I'm not a Walmart fan. Fuck Walmart. But that's Walmart's right. And they should be in jail. Bottom line. I'm not all for just jailing people, but it's not funny. We live in a society where mass shootings occur on a daily basis. Calling in a gun threat to a retail establishment, not cool. There's no excuse for that. So I'm hoping they find this person, and I'm hoping they throw the book at him. Or what is it? Book 'em, Dano. I don't even know what that's from, but book 'em, Dano. All right, the Hype House. This is a fucking thing. Hype House. There's an owner of a mansion in Hollywood Hills, some like $4 or $5 million mansion, who is seeking damages from some influencers, finger quote influencers, who rented the house to film a bunch of videos and then left a bunch of damage. I didn't care to get into the specifics of this because I'm sure this homeowner has some rights to sue and recoup costs for damages. We are talking about people who throw around a couple $1 million just to make silly little videos. What's more ridiculous to me is the fact that we have this normal term called Hype House, and these are people that rent these houses, and they call it and it's a group, and they call it a Hype House, to the point where Netflix is making a show with these fucking people that go out and have a, finger quote, hype house. So we can't get Warrior Nun renewed, but you're going to give a bunch of idiots a bunch of money to go destroy houses? Give me a fucking break. We've all seen that Jake Paul idiot or John Paul, or one of them's Jake. Isn't there a brother or something? They think they're fucking boxers now, just destroying things, running amok around a neighborhood. Grow the fuck up. You want to make some videos? That's fine. Grow up, stop damaging things, and please, please miss me with this hype house shit. The hype house. I only got a Netflix contract. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous shows, we got a new show coming to TBS. They're actually ramping up to it. It's called Power Slap. And you've probably seen these crazy slap competition videos on social platforms. I've seen one or two of them. This is from the mind of Dana White, who was one of the founders of Ultimate Fighting Competition. And we've hit a point where doctors have had to come out and say, yeah, this is not healthy for people. People are giving themselves concussions and brain damage because they're standing there holding their face out to get literally slapped as hard as possible across the face. I've actually seen a couple photos from like lead-up events, I guess, because I don't know that I don't think it's actually the event with the little bit of research I did. There's a dude who's bleeding, swollen, and his face is literally deformed. He looks like the dude from Goonies, and not because he looks that way, but because he got smacked so hard a bunch of times in the fucking face that he is now deformed. I don't know if it's going to be permanent, but he looks like, hey, you guys, dude from Goonies. It doesn't take a doctor to realize that's not healthy. But here we go. Leave it up to the United, and that's the thing. I was about to say, leave it up to the United States of America to make something like this popular. I think the slap stuff started elsewhere because they've been using footage from other countries. So it's like, for once, we can't blame this one on the United States of America. Although, leave it up to us to take it to another level, put it on TBS, on a cable television, and put the dude that was in charge of Ultimate Fighting in charge of a slap competition. Why is this a thing? Concussions left and right. Why is this a thing? Like, why? Even boxing, sometimes I'm like, Jesus Christ, we're watching these guys just wail on each other. At least they've got gloves, and they're defending themselves, and it's kind of a sport that's been around longer than I've been alive, and it's like, okay, fine. Slap. They stand there and they slap the shit out of each other. Knock it off. It's enough of that. All right, entertainment news. Pink Floyd was in the news recently. Apparently, Pink Floyd is getting ready to celebrate their 50th anniversary. 50 years Pink Floyd's been around, which is funny. I see that and I'm like, man, that makes me feel old. And then I see some ska bands I've been listening to for a long time, and they're like 40th anniversary. I'm like, oh man, not that much, not that big of a difference there. But of course, they were in the news lately because they released a 50th anniversary logo with the numbers 5 and 0. Within the 0 is like a rainbow design. So much like the ignorant assholes that talk about Rage Against the Machine, among other bands, and say, oh, when did they become political and blah, blah, blah. They have come out and say, then a bunch of people came out and said, oh, I'm never listening to Pink Floyd again. When did they become woke? Because they have a rainbow. Not only is it ridiculous to say they're woke because they put a rainbow on their logo, but Pink Floyd has always had a rainbow on their stuff. In fact, one of their albums has a prism with a rainbow coming out of it. So these apparent Pink Floyd fans didn't realize that it's actually an homage to the rainbow that they have previously had on an album cover. They've had a prism. Like, it just blows my mind. How ignorant do you have to be? And also, we live in a society where you look at a rainbow and you're like, whoa, you must be woke. Like, no, maybe someone just likes a rainbow. My 6-year-old likes rainbows. I don't think she's woke. Whatever the hell, we're calling woke these days. That term pisses me off, too. Oh, you're so woke. Wait, oh, you mean I care about other people? My bad. My bad for caring and not wanting to be an asshole all the time. Well, I guess I'm woke. It's a fucking rainbow. Get over it. And you know what? If you don't want to listen to Pink Floyd anymore because you think you're offended by a rainbow, probably for the best. We're not talking about a swastika here. It's a rainbow. Amazing to me. Speaking of ignorant people, Splash Mountain is officially closed down now in Disney World. Not sure if it's closed yet here at Disneyland in Southern California, but they've closed it down. About a week ago was the last day for Splash Mountain and their Song of the South overlay. For those of you not familiar with Song of the South, go do a little Googling. Spent 8 years at Disney. I did. Song of the South is so bad that Disney keeps it covered up in a vault. I worked there. Not at Disneyland. In media. I worked closely with studios and home entertainment. Could not, for the life of me, get my hands on a copy of Song of the South. And I didn't want it because I love Song of the South. I just wanted it for historical reasons. And I didn't try crazy hard, to be honest. But they keep it under wraps because it's wildly offensive. Wildly offensive. Well, everyone lost their mind, and we've been dealing with complaints because the overlay was going to change. And leave it up to Florida. Especially in Florida. It was something like a 220-minute wait to ride Splash Mountain, which is not a great ride. If you've ever ridden the thing, you're like, all right, it's a small world with animals. Cool. Oh, and here's a drop. Oh, we're done. And now I'm wet. Not in a good way wet. 220 minutes if people want to ride it. Just because they had to get in there before it changed it from Song of the South. And they're all mad. Oh, how can you put in Princess and the Frog? Because, well, first of all, Princess and the Frog, a lot less offensive than Song of the South. You could debate if it's offensive. I worked at Disney when that was happening. People did have some problems with certain characters there. I actually watched it recently. Part of it with my daughter. I said, okay, well, I could see that. But we're not talking like the crows in Dumbo here, guys. It's just slightly offensive. Stereotypical, I could say. And they've all taken it even further. If you go on eBay right now, you can buy a jar of Splash Mountain water that people have collected from the ride. It's water, dude. And also, you could probably open it up and smell it. And if it smells like shit, then yeah, maybe it is from Splash Mountain. There's no way to verify if this water is actually from Splash Mountain. Like, what? Even if you have a picture and you're like, look at me, I'm pulling water out of the Splash Mountain thing. So you have that water. Sell 50 tap water. Who cares? It's water. Water. I get being into like certain rides and everything. And in fact, I have a pin board here, which is predominantly Disney pins on there, mostly Figment. So I will admit there is a Figment pin up here that has a little bubble on the front of it and has these two tiny, for those of you watching the video, they're tiny pieces from the original Journey into Imagination ride. So I get it. It's not fucking water. It's a pin, and the things are on there, and I love Figment, and that's why I have it. I don't love a racist ride and need to have a stupid water from it. Okay, that being said, if any of you are in need of Splash Mountain water, please contact me, and I will send some your way. $50 a jar. Low price. I'll even throw in free shipping for you. And if it tastes like Los Angeles tap water, it's simply a coincidence. Don't worry about that. All right, some entertainment news. Oh, this one killed me. Really killed my wife. She wasn't happy about this one. We got some news from, I do this all the time. I want to say Zachary Quinto, Zachary Levi. They don't even look the same. I don't know why I do that. Zachary Levi of Chuck fame and Shazam fame. He had a tweet go viral because he basically outed himself as anti-vax. And then because of that, people were pointing out stuff that I was not aware of, but apparently he is a very big Trump supporter, as well as being a Christian, and there's nothing wrong with being a Christian unless you're one of this type of Christian who hates gay people, which apparently he is. And he's also good friends with Jordan Peterson. So, I had to tell my wife about that today. She was not happy. Her words exactly were like, well, at least we still got John Krasinski. I was like, yeah, still got John Krasinski. Still got Ryan Reynolds. I was enjoying some Zachary Levi, but it ain't no Ryan Reynolds. But unfortunately, we got that going on from Zachary Levi. So if that's something you care about, be aware of him. I'm not here to tell you not to support him or whatever else, but man, the trifecta. Just anti-vax Trump supporter, Jordan Peterson fan. He's also probably a Joe Rogan fan too. It's just like, man, why we gotta be like this, man? You seem so cool. Wasn't though. All right, new show I found, and I think I'm behind on this one because I think this came out like a year or so ago. God's Favorite Idiot. If you have not seen this, it's on Netflix. So the other night when my wife, she's stuck quarantined in the room, I put the kid to bed and I'm just searching. I'm like, what can I watch? I'm like, what's this? God's Favorite Idiot? Melissa McCarthy. And I recognize his name when I see it, and apologies to him. But Melissa McCarthy's husband, who is a well-known writer, director, and actor, mainly a writer and director, he's in it. I'm going, what the hell is this? I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. Raucously funny show. It's a sitcom. If you like Melissa McCarthy, you're going to love it. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. There's only 8 episodes. I don't know if there's going to be more. I'm only a couple episodes in. But it is laugh out loud funny. And I will say to all my friends that are obsessed with Frisbee golf, I laughed entirely too hard at the Frisbee golf interaction within the first episode of God's Favorite Idiot. Pure comedy. And of course, I have to mention this. Panic at the Disco has officially broken up. He broke up with himself, apparently. This was all over the social platforms when this happened. I really thoroughly enjoyed the memes. They were just fantastic because, for those of you not aware, Panic at the Disco is one guy. So he announced that he is breaking up his band, which means he is breaking up with himself. And which is all good. And joking aside, his wife is pregnant and he said he needs to focus on that. And it's like, that's fine. Do we need this big announcement that you're breaking up your own band that is yourself? You could have just not made music for a little while, and bands do this all the time. But no, we had to make a big statement about it and everything else. And I will say the memes coming out of that were utterly hilarious. All right, one thing I'm going to leave you with before we wrap up episode 97, which was supposed to be shorter, and now, of course, it's longer. Let me get a sip of this Voodoo Ranger here first. Last week, years in the making. I hadn't seen them since 2008 or 19. Once again, got to see one of my absolute favorite bands, Unwritten Law, live. This is, for those of you that remember, this is the first real punk show that I went to was Unwritten Law and Blink-182 with Unwritten Law headlining. I was a fan before that show. I have been a fan ever since. It's fantastic seeing Wade back behind the drums. Scott is still killing it at his age. Their main guitarist that they've had for a while, he's always been fantastic, and they kind of shift in another guitarist and bass player. I had the privilege of seeing him twice last week. I like him so much I drove into Hollywood on a Thursday, sat in ridiculous traffic while it was raining slightly. They killed it at the Roxy along with Authority Zero and Mest. We were surprised by Mest because it was just supposed to be the lead singer doing an acoustic set, and he decided to bring out the whole band for their tour they were doing, which I don't know that they were on all the stops, but they were the two that I saw. Mest was on the stops. Killed it at the Roxy, but then I will say Saturday at Observatory, the crowd had even more energy than they did at the Roxy. And I'd said this to a couple of friends, that the sound is better at Observatory than the Roxy. I like the Roxy. I don't like going into Hollywood, but I like the Roxy. And you're right there. It's a lower stage. So Scott's I'm singing in the microphone with Scott, and I'm losing my voice and everything else. But as far as Saturday, you could tell they're coming off a hometown show because they played San Diego on Friday. And the energy level was just on another level from Thursday when I'd seen him. The crowd was fantastic. I made a bunch of friends, made a bunch of new friends, ran into a bunch of previous friends, and basically was at the rail and they played over an hour both nights. I was at the rail singing my ass off, enjoying the heck out of that. And of course, it's always a treat when they close out with CPK. Myself being a Poway kid, always love seeing that. And we got some more shows coming up, but I think I've got a 1 or 2 week break here. And I've got some other scheduling stuff, so we may be back next week with a new episode, but if not, we will be back the week after, and maybe we'll do a Super Bowl Sunday special for that one in particular. All right, so I'll keep everyone updated. The best way to stay updated is if you're following us on Facebook, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. My own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. Bunch of new photos are coming up on there, so keep an eye out for all that stuff. And, of course, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Make sure you bookmark that one. Check back often for exclusive content. Support us on Patreon. And if you don't want to do that, you can support us through our merch website, which links directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. All right, like I said, keep everyone updated on scheduling issues. We might be back next week. We'll see how that goes, but we've got plenty of great content coming up for you over the next couple weeks, and we'll keep everyone updated on shows that we'll be out at, so you can pick up some stickers and say hi and do all that great stuff. All right, this has been episode 97 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It's the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And until next time, Wall fans, Common Sensors podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.